of prime interest to me at the moment is Ozzie Jurock, Jurock.com. That's Jurock.com, looking at real estate numbers. And Ozzie, there are brand new numbers out this week, and they're not telling a really rosy tale.
No, and in fact, the fact we have talked about on this show over the last 6 or 7 months, if you take a whole bunch of buyers out of the market, and we had predicted about 20% would be affected by the new mortgage stress test, and it looks like that number is going to be higher than that now. But when you do that, literally put the industry under attack, then it's not too surprising that in Vancouver the detached home sales are down 40%. And 40, the condo sales even are down.
40%?
40%.
Wow.
Yeah. In May last year, we had 1,549 units sold. This year, we had 939. The interesting thing, too, is I always look at the April 2016 numbers. And if you look at those numbers, we then sold almost 2,000 condos. So we've seen more than a 50% decline in sales. But the thing that the double whammy, when you look at all sales are down 35% in total, condos and detached, and active listings are up 27%. Mike, we've never had this in Vancouver. We always talked about Toronto. Well, the reason there, the problem is the sales are down and listings are way higher. Well, in Vancouver, we just had no product. Now we're starting to have product.
And there is now room for what we would call a correction, but I mean, this sounds like a real downdraft. But this market was so hyped, Ozzie, and sales were coming from offshore, sales were coming from speculators, shares were coming from sales were coming from pre-sales. Is this going to find an equilibrium? And I'm asking you to put on your forward-looking goggles. And is it going to find it soon? Is there a level when the buyer will come back into the market?
Well, you see, it always does. Michael, I've been in this business 40 years. Yep, I'm a real old guy, and we've had Asian crisis, Russian flu, currency crisis, stock market collapses. The last one, 2008, my God, if you read the articles that were written in 2008 and 2009 about our future, and yet it took us about 14 months for a turnaround. This one is slightly different because it's saying when you have an economic crisis, so everybody was affected and we all got out of it at the same time. This time there's a serious attack directly on the real estate industry. Look, in BC, we have 233,000 high-paying jobs in that industry. A quarter of our tax income comes from it. And it seems that for some reason, if you have a cottage on an island that took you 20 years to save, you become a speculator, right? So for some reason, they single out certain areas and others not. Why would Whistler not, for instance, get a speculation tax and Kelowna would get one? Why would we zap Albertans to pay a tax on investing in British Columbia? How ridiculous is that? And so when you look at all of the totality of it, it's like the industry is under attack. And will it return? If I was an Albertan, I would no longer invest in British Columbia. I'd be just upset just for the very fact that you've singled me out. I'm a Canadian, I'm your neighbor. You're already, opposing my pipeline, all the other stuff. Now you want me to invest in you? Won't happen. So yes, this will take a little longer. But Mike, in the stock market, if you compare it in the stock market, we now had a bull market of 10 years. It's time to do some heavy breathing and adjusting, and it's quite normal. I have absolutely no problem with the market adjusting downwards a bit.
And Ozzie, you pointed out to me that there's draconian measures coming into place this month with realtors.
Well, yeah, the interesting thing is the government, of course, has the best of intentions, and I would never, ever say that they don't have the best intention. But as of June 15, you're losing your right to choose who you want to be, represent yourself. If you know me for 20 years and I list your home with you, I'm now not able to introduce a buyer to your property because I have to find some other person to do that. If all of a sudden I had any kind of previous dealings or knowledge in any kind of a transaction, I have to recuse myself in the middle of a transaction. It's too much for the show to go into all the details, but these changes will raise your eyebrows where we have, under the protection of the consumer umbrella, I no longer can deal with Michael Levy, who I know for 20 years in trust. I can't do that with you. I'm sorry, Mike. I can't buy from you if you list with me and vice versa. It's a new world for the real estate industry.
So Ozzie, that means, just to put it in my simple terms, if I've got a friend, who I do, who's a realtor, and I want to buy a place, I have to have another, like, can he go buy a place, then can he sell my place?
No. That's
What?
the thing.
What?
You have to sort of make a choice. It's kind of silly. If you call me on an ad, I am now a buyer's realtor. I'm a buyer's agent. If on the way to the house that I'm going to show you, tell me you have a house for sale, I say, I'm sorry, I can't list it. I mean, the ideas of, all of the ideas of informing the buyer of his rights are good ideas, and informing the ideas of the seller of his rights are good ideas. The whole question about making people have more education so they can able to write a contract is a good idea. It's not all bad ideas. But the idea of forcing the transaction, I tell you, you're going to create a lot of criminals in the real estate industry who can no longer, they can't simply not deal with these rules.
Pardon me while I pick my chin up off the floor. Just one last quick thing, Ozzie. The condo market, which seems to be a different, a horse of a different color, if I might say, is the condo market, and I'm talking of lower mainland British Columbia. But I also wanted just a quick word on Alberta and their condo market also, Calgary. But is the condo market in Vancouver, lower mainland, going out to, going out to Surrey and Cloverdale and Port Coquitlam and then further out towards Abbotsford, is that affected the same way?
No, it isn't, because we're looking at affordability. We're not anti-real estate as buyers. We just look for something to afford. The luxury market is under serious pressure, though. So anybody that was speculating in the 2 million plus range is going to be affected in the condo market. We're already seeing it now. The thing also is the whole idea of speculators and all this. We will have continued influx of buyers from overseas. We forget that we have a 400,000 Asian population. There are friends and relatives and people that are coming on a continuous basis. Last year we had a record 50,000 people gross coming into British Columbia. All that will mean we're going to have an increase on the product availability and on prices. So when you go to Surrey, where you have 1,200 people a month come to that area, and you can buy a condo under $300,000, $400,000, you will see continued pressure in those markets.
And one last question, Ozzie, quickly, actually. If the zoning was more lax in the city of Vancouver and they allowed much higher density, would that go anywhere to solving the affordability crisis?
Well, you can have a lot of people argue about it, but clearly supply makes a difference. A painting just sold for $460 million. There was only one of them, so the price was high. When you have a Cabbage Patch doll, that stupid doll can be $300 because there's no supply. And our prices are entirely due to lack of supply. And so the city should look at a number of ideas. Bob Rennie floated the idea of adding another floor to every 4 or 5 story building in Vancouver. There's a lot of good ideas out there to increase density. They want it, but they don't allow it.
Head shaker, Ozzie. Ozzie, thanks for joining us this morning. It's Ozzie Jurock, website jurock.com. Ozzie, enjoy your golf game today.
Thank you very much. Just very quickly, we have a ski condo hot property for $67,900 in BC, fully furnished.
No, go ahead and tell me. Just take another moment.
$67,900, 1 bedroom, full bathroom, great viewing deck of the Rockies, decorated, fully furnished, carpet, gas fireplace, ski in, ski out, very close to the golf course. It's rented right now at $750 a month, but anybody that lives in the Kootenays, and particularly in a gorgeous place like Kimberley, $3,000 down, borrow it from your dad, and you're an owner.
Jurock.com. Ozzie, thank you, and this is Money Talks on the Money Talks Radio Network.